Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming or Battlefield-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formats out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. The first question for the day comes from Larson, and it is, there has been a lot of hate directed at Star Wars Battlefront, and I was wondering if you were disappointed with the game so far. Well, admittedly, I am a little disappointed. I would have loved to have space battles, driving around in the AT could have been iconic, it would have been phenomenal, but I don't think I'm as pissed off as the internet is. There is a serious hate train going on right now online, and I don't understand why. We haven't seen any gameplay at all. All we saw was a trailer, and admittedly, I don't understand why DICE or whoever's in charge of their marketing department, why they gave the okay to say what was not in the game. I don't understand why they were basically, yeah, we won't tell you what's upcoming, but we'll tell you what's not in it. That doesn't seem like a very good way of handling things. But I still don't think it justifies the crazy amount of hate that this game is getting right now. Don't get me wrong that I think you should pre-order. Actually, I love that people are being more critical now about video games that haven't been released. Apparently in the UK, pre-orders are down across the board. I read that somewhere briefly, and that's awesome. It's not just for Star Wars. Across the board, pre-order for video games are down in the UK, and that's amazing because I'm glad that people are finally getting smart. They're realizing that you shouldn't drop $60+ on something that you don't even know anything about. So that's a good thing. I'm glad that people are finally being critical and they're thinking about this a little bit more. But I just don't understand the blind hatred, the hate train that's going on right now for Star Wars Battlefront. And so maybe the game will be terrible. Maybe in the next couple of months when they start to slowly release gameplay, we get more and more information, it turns out to be awful. But I think we should maybe reserve our judgment until that day happens. I'm hopeful that it's going to be good. I'm not going to be pre-ordering. I'm not going to be going on the hype train by any means. But I don't think having a hate train is any better than a hype train. That's just my 2 cents. And so absolutely, I am a little disappointed by what they've delivered on so far, but once again, we haven't seen anything concrete, and until that day, I'm gonna reserve my judgment. The next question comes from Alexander, and it is, what do you think about explosives being able to destroy objectives in Rush like in the first Bad Company? Objectives would have a health bar, and you could slowly take them down with C4 and other explosive devices. What do you think? Well, in theory, this doesn't sound like a terrible idea. It actually sounds like an interesting one. If your team is struggling, you can't hold on to that objective for the life of you, especially if you're playing on like a 64-player rush, it can be nearly impossible to get up to the objective and hold on to it for an extended period of time to actually progress onto the next base. And so if you have the ability to maybe flank around with a special unit of your friends, get in there, drop a bunch of C4, and slowly whittle it down with these explosive devices, that sounds like an interesting concept. Not only that, but it would also cause the enemy to be a little bit more cautious when they're using particular tactics to defend said objective. I'm sure you've gotten killed on numerous occasions by a support player or a recon putting C4 on their objective, the thing that they're trying to defend, make sure that doesn't blow up. They're putting C4 all over it because as soon as you arm it, they detonate, and of course they're gonna get a free kill that way. You've also probably run into the problem where an enemy tank continuously bombards their own objective with shell round after shell round. It's kind of humorous when you think about it. They're using a high explosive tank round to defend an objective that they're trying not to blow up. It just doesn't make any sense. And so in the realistic sense, this would be a great way at making the defensive side think a little bit more about their tactics on how they're going to defend these objectives. If they want to use C4, that's fine. That can be one way of handling things, but they're going to run the risk of slowly whittling down their own MCOM, and eventually, if they use this tactic continuously, it might lead to their demise, and it might blow up because of these tactics. And so if DICE did decide to do this, it could be an interesting take on Rush, the game mode in general, and it would cause people to think about combat a little bit differently. The problem with this system, though, and the main reason why they changed it back in Bad Company 2, is that a lot of people abused the mechanic, and it led to some very stale rounds. Rush is all about getting on the objective, trying to arm it, having that great offense and defense, but because of this mechanic, it was way more advantageous to sit in your deployment. You would have this on some rounds, in a tank and have maybe 2 or 3 repairs and just use your tank shells to slowly take out the camos. There was nothing the defensive team could do. If they shot a bunch of RPGs, it would just get repaired by the millions of people repairing the tank. And like I said, it led to some very boring rounds. Having someone take out your objective because they're able to snipe it from 1,000 meters away is not fun to fight against. And the real thing that makes fun enjoyable is that dynamic of having the enemy push up onto the MCOM, defend it, and have it blow up that way. And so while it definitely is a very interesting concept, I like that it would change the way that the defenders would have to think about combat. You wouldn't have these cheese tactics anymore. I don't think that it is enough of a benefit to outweigh how Rush would just turn into a snooze fest. It would get really, really boring quickly because you know that people would just use their tanks to bombard them from a distance, and in my opinion, that would lead to some very lackluster gameplay, and it's for that very reason why I would not expect DICE to do this for Battlefield 4 or even for a future Battlefield game. The next question comes from Lucas, and it is, what do you think about gambling in Battlefield Hardline? If you're feeling pretty good about your team, you could make a bet at the beginning of the round and make some extra cash if you win. I love this idea. Not only does it fit thematically, because you would assume that criminals would be down with some gambling, but it'd also be a great way to use this excess cash that's slowly building up and basically just collecting dust at this point. What would be the cherry on top is that if you do start to gamble and you're really good at it and you're making a lot of cash that way, you're getting millions and millions of dollars, it'd be really cool if you could spend that money on some expensive camos. How awesome would it be if they started adding in maybe a $1 million camo or a $10 million camo? That way, when you see someone run around with one of those things on the battlefield, you can say to yourself, oh man, hot damn, that guy really earned that. He spent $10 million on that camo. That's cool. Like that would just be a really nice feature. I don't know if Visceral is ever going to do anything like this. They probably won't add in a gambling function, but even if they don't want to add in the gambling function, it'd be cool if there were these really amazing, like they would need to be awesome. Like if it's just another or different tiger stripe, that's stupid. But if they really put a lot of effort into adding in some cool camos or some cool character skins, maybe if you were playing as a criminal, you could have like a really fancy looking suit on, like you would see in Grand Theft Auto. Like that would be a great way of handling it. So I love your idea. If they did have something where you can invest your money in, I think it fits the theme very, very well. And so overall, I love this concept. The next question comes from Daniel, and it is, what do you think about giving the same stats to all of the weapons in the same category? For example, all the assault rifles will have the same stats, and the only thing that will be different between them is how they look. I think this will solve the balancing issues, and it would make the game a more skill-based shooter. Well, you're right in the sense that this would make weapon balance a hell of a lot easier, and it would also be more competitive. If everyone is using basically the same gun, maybe with a slightly different weapon skin, yeah, it might look like they're using an M16A3. You can pick your favorite weapon and use it on the battlefield, but in essence, it has the same stats, it's exactly the same, and so it really comes down to the player's skill if they're gonna come out of a firefight alive. Wouldn't come down to their RPM, wouldn't come down to the weapon's accuracy or recoil, it would be only dependent on the player's skill, and I know for some people that would be fairly appealing. The issue that I have, and I'm sure many of you guys have a problem with this, is that while I understand that it's not easy to get a perfect weapon balance, actually it's impossible to have perfect weapon balance. Having every single weapon not feel overpowered or underpowered is not an easy task, and few games are able to accomplish it, but that's not really an excuse to have every single weapon completely identical. Can you imagine how bored you would get of that game? Let's take Battlefield 4. I'm assuming the PDWs would be identical, the assault rifles would be identical for that class. So basically we'd have 4 weapons to choose from. 4 guns in a big AAA title like that, I don't know if I would buy that. Unless it was completely competitive based, unless it was like another game that was trying to compete with Counter-Strike. But even Counter-Strike has a wide variety of guns. Yes, some guns are better than others, but they've been able to basically work around that with their money system. So I just don't know. I personally think that this would be a terrible idea. I understand that weapon balance is difficult, but I don't know if this is the best way of handling things. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. As always, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.